All right then. So, welcome back. It's early in the season. I'm going to say that straight off the hop because there's no reason to yet say, okay, major trouble, fire coaches, change goalies, change, burn it all down. That's not necessary. But what's funny is that every year when we get into a season like this, the question becomes, when is it no longer early in the season? Now, this year the season starts October 12th, so we're only a few days in. I would say that November 1st is when we can't really say any longer, well, it's early, because at that point you'll have played enough games that there's an alarming trend or there's a great trend. And you can say, yeah, no, these guys are off to really good starts. And very often teams that are off to good starts end up riding that to the playoffs. So we're going to go ahead and get things started. I just wanted to get that out of the way first because I would imagine there's going to be some concerns, starting with Montreal. So the Habs coming in off of a loss against Toronto. And for Montreal, the only question I have is, are they going to be able to score enough goals? So once they get Hoffman back, you've got to think that the goals will start coming at some point, right? But right now, there's got to be a little bit of concern. So it's Buffalo at home. It's Montembeault versus Anderson. Craig Anderson, pretty good debut for Buffalo, to be honest. The shots were 3-0 for the Sabres at 3 minutes, so that helps. Then they get a power play, and they score on it. It's Okposo starting out the season with a goal from Bryson and Miller at 6:40. This might be Kyle Okposo's best game he's played in, I'll say, maybe 3 or 4 years, right? Olofsson then tries one from a bad angle after the Habs had a power play that they were not able to score on. Solid period for the Sabres. Okposo hits the post. It was close enough that the light came on and some thought it was in the net, but no. However, before the period's out, Buffalo makes it 2-0. It's Gergensons from Miller and Eakin at 17:35. The Sabres then go to the power play. So we're in a situation now where it's 2-0. The Sabres are on the power play late in the period, and Montreal just doesn't look like Montreal. So we go to the second period. The Habs finish the kill. Anderson, sharp early on. And that's Craig Anderson, not Josh Anderson. Josh Anderson had a couple of decent moments too. Habs get a power play. They ended up with a 5-on-3 for 26 seconds, but they're unable to score. So the 5-on-3 does not go for them. Hinostroza had a chance that was saved. The Sabres had a 2-on-1. That was broken up. And then Chris Weidman, returning from the KHL, he gets a goal from Armia and Matthew Perreault at 9:33. So Perreault's on the board with his first point as a Montreal Canadian. And so it's 2-1. But then the Sabres get a power play. They also get a 5-on-3. And then they score on the power play. Olofsson from Bryson at 17:05 makes it 3-1. And this is where you got to be asking, so what's going on here? Buffalo. On the Discord today on our pick'ems, I think there were 41 people picked Buffalo compared to 500 plus that picked Montreal for that game. And I think the other 41 had to be people just going, I just take underdogs. It's got to be what it is, right? I would think, unless somebody knew something. So Bjork makes it worse for Montreal fans and the Montreal Canadiens before the period's out. He scores from Gergensons and Hinostroza at 19:04. As somebody who followed Bjork in Boston, the offense is there. Whether or not it sticks around with Buffalo, we'll see. The Habs do get a power play in that last minute, but the score is 4-1 in favor of Buffalo after 2. Third period, Sabres get a power play. They do end up scoring. Tage Thompson from Skinner and Olofsson at 4 minutes and 29 seconds. So that puts them up 5-1. The shots were 7-3 in favor of the Sabres at 6 minutes. And it just went all Buffalo's way. Buffalo wins this one 5-1. The shots were 10 apiece in the first, 15-11 Buffalo in the second, 11-10 Buffalo in the third. Final shots 36-31 for the Sabres. Power plays, Montreal goes 0 for 4. Buffalo went 3 for 6. The Sabres 50% and that's weird. Hits were only 18-9, so it was not an overly physical game from a hitting perspective. Montembeault saves 31 out of 36. Anderson saves 30 out of 31, and he's undefeated as a member of the Sabres. And for this one night, the Sabres got to feel pretty good about themselves, don't they? All right, moving along. Toronto. Toronto really took over this game, but it was too late when they did. So the first period, this being played in Ottawa, the Senators had the early jump. Mrazek makes the save there that he needed to. Ritchie had a tip shot that was blocked. Pinto almost buries one, but then it's Tierney scoring from Holden and Ennis at 8:31. And the Leafs guilty of turning the puck over a little bit. And Ottawa's going to make you pay. Ottawa's a fast team. They're a young team, and they're a team that believe in themselves. And again, I said during previews and all of that, I think Ottawa's going to surprise people this year, and I still think that could be the case. And then the shots are 7-2 for the Sens with 9 minutes left. And then Brady Tkachuk makes an appearance, and they greeted him like he was Caesar, basically. Like he was, they had the spotlight on him, and yeah, all right, so Brady Tkachuk signed, and the fans are pretty happy, and he had to be happy with what he saw from his teammates tonight, too. The Leafs get a power play. Nylander had a blast that was tipped wide. Power plays killed off. Forsberg, very good. Forsberg, since arriving in Ottawa last season, very, very good. Even though his pads didn't match his jersey and his equipment last year, he was still very good for them. So, Formenton then had a fast break, fires one wide. There's a late power play for the Sens, and they score on it. As I said during the preseason, I think they're going to have a good power play this year. Tonight's numbers, not bad. Ennis ends up scoring from Chabot and Stützle at 18:58. And then with 0.6 seconds left, Formenton, very, very aware of the clock, gets a goal from Mete at 19:59. And it was a Kasha turnover that led to that goal to make it 3-0. And that's a backbreaker. I can only imagine how Sheldon Keefe went up one side of them and down the other in between periods, because we've seen what happens in that Leafs dressing room now. And that's when cameras are on. So I can imagine when cameras aren't on, it's probably worse. Second period, Leafs get an early power play. The Senators do kill it off. The Leafs were really being stymied by Forsberg. Kampf can't bury one. And with 5:30 left, the shots were 10-7 for the Senators, and they had really strong puck possession in the second half of that second period. They looked very confident, very secure. And then in the third period, it changed. There's an early power play for the Leafs. Nylander was denied. The Senators looked like they were going to kill it off, and then it ends up in the back of their net. Spezza scores from Riley at 3 minutes and 11 seconds. So Jason Spezza continues to be a good producer for the Toronto Maple Leafs on a cheap contract. And then they go right back to the power play. However, a shorthanded chance for the Senators draws a Leafs penalty to make it a 4-on-4. The Leafs would press at 6.5 minutes. The Leafs get a power play, and they score on it. So at least if you're a Toronto fan, the power play got going. Although that means they didn't score a 5-on-5 either. So it's 6 in one and a half dozen in the other, right? Nylander scores from Spezza and Tavares at 8 minutes and 50 seconds. So Spezza with a couple of points tonight. Senators then, there was a post for Tierney. Campbell stops a Mete chance because Mrazek got hurt. And so Campbell had to take over for him. And we haven't heard yet that I've seen exactly what the status is with Mrazek. With 41.3 seconds left, the Senators get a power play, which Sheldon Keefe did not agree with at all. So your final score is 3-2 for Ottawa. They hold on. They win the game. The shots are 17-12 for Toronto in the first, 14-6 Ottawa in the second, and then 25-10 Toronto in the third. Yeah. Final shots 48-36 for the Leafs. Power plays 2 for 5 for Toronto, 1 for 4 for Ottawa. Hits were 24-22 in favor of the Ottawa Senators. Mrazek saves 23 out of 26, so he allowed all 3 goals. Campbell saved all 10 shots in relief. I would expect Hutchinson to be called up tomorrow. Forsberg, 46 saves on 48 shots. Continues to be pretty good since he arrived in Ottawa. Whatever's going on there, it's worked for him. So while we talk about Matt Murray and the concerns with Murray, no concerns with Forsberg. So there you go. Next up, Pittsburgh and Florida. This was one of the most back-and-forth games of the night. It would have been the most back-and-forth game on a normal night. Tonight is not a normal night. It's not on this board. The normal game is not on the abnormal game, I should say, is not on this board. So Gensel's in, and he looked good tonight. It was a good start for the Penguins. Simone's speed on display. Like, I'm not sure where this Simone was last year or the year before, but this is the guy who was considered a good prospect. So again, like Jankowski last year, getting off to a good start for Pittsburgh. We will see if it lasts over the full schedule. Panthers go to a power play. DeSmith, pretty sharp to start off this game. Barkov was denied twice on the power play. That's killed off. Penguins get a power play. They don't score on it. And Florida opens the scoring. It's for Hagee from Barkov at 9:17. And fantastic play by Barkov, who was going into beast mode early in this game. The Penguins then go back to the power play. And I noticed that Lundell was on the first penalty killing unit, and he had a chance as well. So Lundell impressing in his first game on that play. Dumoulin takes a penalty. The Panthers go to the power play. And then there was a shorthanded chance for McGinn for Pittsburgh, and that's saved as well. So it's 1-0 Florida going into the second. No indication of how crazy this is going to get, but it's a Florida game, so of course it does. Right? So early Panthers power play, it doesn't score. However, Duclair does afterwards. From Vetrano and Forsling at 3:57, and he banked it in off Mark Friedman. So Duclair, doesn't matter how they go in, it just matters how many you get. And so Duclair, who's had some tougher times with goals not going in last season, he gets one here to go his way. So maybe he'll have some puck luck this year. Panthers go back to the power play, and then we end up with a prolonged 4-on-4. Penguins end up with a 5-on-3, a 4-minute penalty against Florida. There were a lot of penalties in this game. Heinen scores on that power play from Simone and Marino at 11 minutes and 45 seconds. It's not a 5-on-3, but it's a 5-on-4, and it's scored during the first of 2 penalties. So they stay on that power play, but the Panthers kill the rest off, and they still have a 2-1 lead. Then there's a late power play for the Penguins. Jeff Carter, he pockets his 400th goal from Kapanen and Letang at 18:58. And this is where Florida fans let the referee know what they think of him. And it's not a chant of, what's your address so we can send you something nice for Christmas, because we're good fans and we understand that the game is called fairly and our team made mistakes and thus went to the box. That's a terrible chant. I'm not sure why I'd bring it up. So we go to the third period with the score tied. Early Panthers power play. DeSmith robs Reinhart. And then it's Gensel. Gensel gets on the board from Carter and Letang at 8:01, and that one went in off Uyghur. So, Florida defensemen being used as, bumpers to put the puck into the net. So, however it works, it works. Pittsburgh has their first lead of the game. And then 30 seconds later, Rodriguez scores on a nice break at 8:31, and so it's 4-2. And then Marino nearly gets one on a 2-on-1. So this is going bad, right? This is a 4-2 game, and it looks like Pittsburgh is going to sweep Florida. However, Aaron Ekblad, fresh back from injury, he scores at 13:29 for his first of 2, because he also scores at 15:07 from Tippett and Huberdeau. So that ties up the game very quickly, as I'm running out of space, as you see. Penguins get a power play. That was killed off. With 1:37 left, we end up with a delay of game call on Bobrovsky. We end up with a prolonged 4-on-4, because that's just how this works. It all leads over into the overtime. In the overtime, Barkov with a near miss. Rodriguez was denied, and then the puck goes the other way, and Verhaeghe buries it. He gets his second of the game, wins the game on the break shot there. Barkov and Uyghur with the assists at 1:37. So the Panthers win this one 5-4 in overtime. The shots, 12-9 Florida in the first, 17-10 Pittsburgh in the second, 20-15 Pittsburgh in the third. So defense, what defense? And then in the overtime, 2-1 for Florida. So lots of shots. Final shots, 47-39 for Pittsburgh. Power plays, 2 for 9 for the Penguins, 0 for 6 for Florida. Hits 23-22 in favor of the Florida Panthers. In the Pittsburgh net, that's 5 goals against. So DeSmith ends up 42 for 47 on saves, while Bobrovsky 35 saves on 39 shots for him. So not quite a 900 rating. But again, both goalies played well. The announcers were even talking about how both goalies have played well. The score doesn't tell you this. So just one of those crazy games. But again, not the craziest of the night. It's close. It's close. Dallas. So we'll move on to Dallas and the Rangers. Brand new magnet. Love it. So, Holtby gets hurt in this game, because that's what happens. He also ended up being the first star of this game. So, I'm hoping Holtby's not in too rough a shape, but we'll see, right? Blaine was scratched, and I noticed that because, of course, in the last game, I was impressed with some of the hitting from Blaine, but he took 3 penalties. And so him being scratched doesn't necessarily surprise me when they get blown out like that, and he's in the box 3 times. They had a nice Rod Gilbert tribute before the game as well. Shesterkin versus Holtby was your goaltending matchup. Klingberg got hurt on a hit by Kreider. It was not a dirty hit. There wasn't intent there. It was just the angle of the hit, and I hope Klingberg's all right. It looked like a concussion to me, but we'll see. We'll see if he's okay or not. We'll probably be reporting on that tomorrow or whenever. But yeah, Dallas's depth on the blue line is going to get tested. And you know, the big thing for me and the big jinx to me is I have heard so many people in the media saying, well, Dallas will be healthy this year, so it'll make a big difference. And I keep thinking, what are you basing that on? Dallas has gotten hurt every year for years. What are you basing this on? It's just like when people go, well, Malkin's healthy. Well, now you did it, and now he's fallen down and he's out for 2 months. The shots were 3-1 for the Stars 6 minutes into the period. The Rangers get a power play. The Stars press at the 9-minute mark. They did kill off that penalty. Power play then for the Stars. Hakanpää had a nice shot through the screen that was saved by Shesterkin. And then it's Peterson who fought his way into this lineup with a great training camp. He scores the first goal of his career at 19:25 to make it 1-0 Dallas after a period. So we go to the second period. Post for Kakko on a 2-on-1. Kakko had good opportunities tonight. And his next chance was just fired wide. The Rangers get a power play. The Stars get a power play as well. As the box starts filling up, there was a lot of roughing calls handed out there. Radulov fires one high. And then Faksa, he scores the power play marker from Heiskanen and Suter at 6 minutes and 11 seconds. But they don't keep that 2-0 lead for very long. Fox scores from Lindgren and Panarin at 8:43. Fox's goal actually went in off Lindell's leg. And in, again, doesn't matter how they go in. If they go in, that's a goal. And so for your defending Norris Trophy winner, Fox with the goal there. Crowd was loud now with the Rangers on the board. The crowd really trying to get the Rangers to tie, right? Hunt, that's Dryden Hunt with a near miss. And then a crossbar for Trouba, ends up going out. And then Kreider scores to tie it from Miller and Zibanejad at 15:54. So Keandre Miller on the board tonight. And then there's a late power play for the Rangers, and Holtby making some huge saves during that penalty kill to keep the game tied at 2 while all of the momentum was with the Rangers. So you go to the third period. Holtby chance early. Holtby would not last throughout that third period. The Stars finish off the kill. Kreider's shot gets blocked. They press. Klingberg, they announced, wouldn't return. And then Hudobin, that's now in net for Holtby, he robs Zibanejad. The Rangers get a power play. And then there was a near goal for the Stars to the point where Ben had a stick in the air, but nope, no luck. So we go to overtime. And I thought, okay, so it's overtime and it's Dallas, so lost then. Because last year, this is what they did. They would lose in overtime or shootouts. Fox had a narrow miss wide in that overtime. Lindell had a shot that was saved. And then it's Heiskanen from Bennett, 1 minute and 38 seconds. So Dallas wins in overtime. That feels weird. But for the Rangers, they dropped to 0-1-1. And I believe now they have a 4-game road trip. So maybe that'll be the best thing for them. Get out on the road, get into a rhythm here. So the shots in this game were 8-4 Dallas in the first period. And then it was 18-8 in favor of the Rangers in the second. 11-8 Rangers in the third. Dallas had both shots in the overtime, including the one that matters. Final shots, 33-26 for the Rangers. Power plays, Dallas goes 1 for 2. Rangers go 0 for 4. Hits, 23 for Dallas, 32 for the Rangers. Holtby saves 25 out of 27. Hudobin saves all 6 shots he faces in relief. Shesterkin saves 23 out of 26. And again, it's early. We'll see what the Rangers do to rectify this. But again, back-to-back nights, right? So you don't want to overreact to it. That being said, I need to change boards. Like I said last night, I had to really cut down on my note-taking. And when you get to these games, like, this is ridiculous. This is ridiculous scoring. And that tells you it's early in the season. So we'll start off with Carolina and the Islanders, because that's right here. Freddie Anderson's first start as a member of the Carolina Hurricanes, but all right. Svechnikov had a rush. Sorokin makes the save, and Svechnikov had an excellent night. Canes get a power play. Svechnikov had a backhand that went wide. Barzal appeared to score, and they had to go to the replay. They had to take some long looks at it, and it turns out, yes, it went in the net. So Barzal scores from Palmieri at 7 minutes and 24 seconds. The review confirmed that it crossed the line. But it's not an Islanders lead for long. Svechnikov scores from Teravainen and Bear at 9:15. And things get kind of scrappy after Aho went down. This was a scrappy evening in hockey. For a year where we may not see rivalries like we did last year, a lot of teams didn't like each other by the end of the night. The Islanders then get a power play. They don't score on that. And then it's Jesper Fast getting a goal from Slavin and Stahl at 13:57. So Slavin's on pace for 82 points, right? Nelson then had a net drive. That draws a power play. Doesn't score, but it's 2-1 for the Carolina Hurricanes after one. It's not a very Islander-like game so far, right? They're kind of allowing some chances they don't normally. So second period early, Brock Nelson scores from Beauvillier and Dobson at 52 seconds. Tie game. Islanders get a power play. We end up with 58 seconds of 4-on-4. Eventually, when we get back to 5-on-5, it's Martinuk that scores from Lawrence and Stepan at 6 minutes and 30 seconds. So, Derek Stepan in his first game in Carolina, he gets a point. The Islanders try to answer. However, it's a former Islander that would score the next goal. It's Nino Niederreiter at 11:28, scoring to make it 4-2 in favor of the Carolina Hurricanes. Canes get a power play. They're unable to score on it. And then after that ends, Anders Lee scores from Pollock and Palmieri at 14 minutes and 20 seconds. So after 2 periods, the score is 4-3 in favor of Carolina. Third period, Pesce blocks a shot from Pajot. The Islanders starting to play some desperate hockey as we get into that third period. Kotkaniemi had a chance that was blocked. Anderson then denies Josh Bailey. It was an odd angle with that shot. It was from a tough angle, but those are the ones that sometimes trickle in. So Anderson saves there. Canes get a power play, and they score on it. It's Teravainen from D'Angelo and Svechnikov at 11 minutes and 36 seconds. So D'Angelo gets out on the power play and gets himself his first point as a member of the Carolina Hurricanes. They pulled the goaltender with 2 minutes and 54 seconds left, which led to the Carolina Hurricanes calling a timeout. With 1:15 left, the Canes get a power play, which essentially ends it. The Islanders do get the puck out of their zone. They do pull Sorokin, and it ends up resulting in an empty net goal for Svechnikov. So it's one of those rare goals where it's an empty netter and it's a power play goal. He scores from D'Angelo and Aho at 19 minutes and 18 seconds. Makes the score 6-3 in favor of Carolina. Shots in this one, 8-6 in favor of the Canes in the first, 22-14. Again, these are very unusually high numbers, but it's early in the season, right? So 22-14 for Carolina in the second, and then 11-8 Carolina in the third. Final shots, 41-28 for Carolina. Power plays, 0-3 for the Islanders, 2-5 for Carolina. Hits, 36-25 for the Islanders. Sorokin saves 35 out of 40. Anderson saves 25 out of 28. Don't get too hung up on goalies having some ugly numbers the first week or two of the season. It happens often. Those numbers will usually get better as the season runs along. Speaking of running along, Arizona's not even trying to hide it, are they? Like, this was a game that early I was like, so this is done. And it might have been the only one tonight that I was really able to say that about. Now, they had a nice Kivlenix tribute pre-game. And not only that, but Merzlikins wearing the number 80. I noticed this. And so it was nice. I thought it was a really nice tribute. And early on, 40 seconds in, Columbus wasn't messing around. Texier scores from Domi at 40 seconds. On Carter Hutton, that he would be in for every goal tonight. So, yeah, it was a rough night for Hutton. And then Columbus was trying to add a number. They press it, trying to get another. They press at the 3-minute mark. They get a power play. The Coyotes would get a power play as well. They don't score on that. Columbus's next power play, they do score on. Bjorkstrand scores for Morenski and Voracek at 14:05. So Jacob Voracek, in his return to Columbus, gets on the scoreboard tonight. So it's 2-0 Columbus after one, and early in the second period, they add to the lead. It's Jenner from Domi. So Domi with a couple of assists already, 35 seconds in. And then Anton Strahlman scores his first as a Coyote from Lawson Krause at 1 minute and 3 seconds. And in their favor, the shots were 3-1 for the Coyotes, 4 minutes in. Coyotes would press at 9 minutes as well. Columbus had a 2-on-1. Line A fires it wide. And things get unpleasant after a save by Hutton. And again, it's early in the season, so it's understandable that the emotions run kind of high at points. But Bjorkstrand would score from Roslovic at 11 minutes and 10 seconds to make it 4-1. And then at 14:16, Jake Bean gets his first as a Columbus Blue Jacket from Voracek and Laine. So it's 5-1 right there. There's a late power play for the Coyotes. Third period, they had a 5-on-3 as well early on. And then it's a power play marker for Columbus when they got their opportunity. It's Werenski from Line and Bjorkstrand at 4:33. So Line gets on the board there. Werenski with a goal. And then Domi scores from Cole Sillinger with his first point in the National Hockey League at 8:48. So good for Sillinger. And that 2021 draft class already got a couple guys on the board. And Domi with a goal to go with his 2 assists earlier. So he had a good game. And that's good to see if you're a Columbus fan, right? Now, Arizona gets power play, and they do answer. It's Clayton Keller from Kessel and Gostisbehere at 16:46. Remember, Kessel banged up a bit during preseason. They weren't sure if he was going to play to start the season. He does. He continues his games played streak. And then it's Nyquist. In his return, he scores from Bjorkstrand and Roslovic at 18:36. And then before the game's over, Arizona gets a power play because why not? Sure. Your final score is 8-2 in favor of Columbus. For anybody wondering how many magnets I have on the magnet board this year for the goals, it's 8 per team. So I'm pretty sure we're good. I shouldn't need to get into the other suitcase of magnets very much this year at all. So the shots were 11-10 Arizona in the first, 13-9 Arizona in the second, 14-7 Arizona in the third. Yeah, Merzlikins had a really good game. Final shots 38-26 for Arizona. It's just a lot of the shots by Columbus go in the net. So I almost feel like for Arizona, I should have just a tank for a magnet. Just a tank magnet. Just here they are. Here they go. So, yeah, your shots are 38-26 for Arizona. Power plays 1 for 4 for the Coyotes. 2 for 3 for Columbus. Hits 18-11 for Arizona. Hutton, 18 saves on 26 shots. Merzlikins, 36 saves on 38 shots. Excellent night for him. And not so much for the Coyotes. But again, it's kind of by design. All right, next up. Okay, so this... settle yourself in for this one. Tampa Bay and Detroit. What was this? Seriously, this has so many storylines to it, and these teams really hate each other. There's a lot of hate now. So, early 4-minute Wings power play. Ernie fires one high. The Bolts killed it off, and really, there wasn't a lot of opportunities on that Detroit power play. Good penalty kill for Tampa Bay, and since it's a 4-minute, that means it's 2 penalties, 2 power plays, right? The Bolts then get a power play after that. There was a shorthanded break for Gagne. Vasilevsky makes the save on that. Impressive kill by the Wings. Larkin and Joseph were unfriendly. We would come back to that in the second period. A couple of times, actually. Nedeljkovic denies Stamkos, and it looks like it's goaltending battle at this point. There's plenty of shots, and both goalies look good. And then Larkin scores from Fabry and Zadina at 14 minutes. Detroit escapes the first period with a 1-0 lead over the Tampa Bay Lightning. And again, it's early, right? But Tampa Bay doesn't want to be 0-2 to start the season, lose games against Pittsburgh without Crosby and Malkin, lose a game against Detroit, who are still, coming out of the rebuild. So second period, it's Bertuzzi who starts what would be a great night for him in the second period from Leddy and Seider at 17 seconds. So Moritz Seider on the board. The Wings then get a power play. They don't score on that. However, they do get the lead to 3-0. It is Bertuzzi from Ernie and Lindstrom at 7:52. So Gustav Lindstrom in the lineup. I'm so happy to see all these young players for Detroit. I think it's going to be a fun year. But then Tampa shows they're Tampa. At 8 minutes and 8 seconds, so 16 seconds after that, Palat scores from Hedman to take just a little bit of the wind out of the sails for Detroit. Killorn then had a chance to trickle wide. Vasilevsky stops the next one from Larkin. And then Larkin... he takes a hit into the boards from Joseph. He didn't like the hit into the boards from Joseph. And I'm not sure I like the hit into the boards from Joseph either. And there wasn't a penalty called for that. So the referee in this situation managed to make everybody angry. Detroit fans are very likely going to look at that hit on Larkin and say, how is that not a cross-check or a board? Then Larkin turns around and he sucker punched Joseph, knocks him down pretty good. And so he gets a match penalty for intent to injure. But what happens is that he sucker punches Joseph, and one of the Tampa Bay players comes in to, of course, do what you do, which is, hey, he just sucker punched our player. I'm going to go let him know he can't do that. So coming out of that, it's the match penalty, which is a 5-minute major now, right? And Larkin's out, but you've got 2 penalties on Tampa, so Detroit's starting with a power play. So they've managed to take a situation where Larkin felt like he was endangered on a hit, and reacted to it. And yeah, I mean, there's intent to injure there. I get the throwing, but they managed to make sure that both coaches were mad, which is impressive. That Cooper's saying, wait a minute, how are we killing a penalty when you threw him out of the game? And good point. And then Detroit, of course, Detroit scores on that power play. And it's Bertuzzi completing the hat trick from Fabry and Raymond. It's 12-29. So Lucas Raymond is now on the board. So that's 2 rookies for Detroit on the board tonight. That match penalty meant that the Bolts ended up with a power play not long after that, though. So, yeah, it's a major. Kucherov was denied, and then there was a shot block, and then Stamkos scores on the power play from Kucherov at 15-19, and then a minute and 12 seconds later, it's Stamkos again, Sergachev and Kucherov with the assists. So, coming out of all of that fracas that takes place, you end up with 2 goals for Tampa, 1 goal for Detroit, and 2 coaches that are upset. And then things get kind of scrummy in the final minute, which they honestly were a lot during this first 2 periods. Third period, Bolts get another power play, the Wings kill it, and then out of the box, Bertuzzi scores his 4th goal of the game at 4 minutes and 35 seconds, and now Detroit's rolling again. Now they're up to 5-3, and soon at 6-3, it's Nemesnikov from Rasmussen and Leddy at 7 minutes and 10 seconds. So it's the momentum is with Detroit, and I'm looking at this and thinking, okay, so they're going to beat Tampa tonight. This is insane. Tampa's allowed 6 goals for the 2nd straight game. Yes, there were a couple of empty netters in the last one, but still, 6 goals against is not very Tampa-like, or very Vasilevsky-like either. Scrummy stuff takes place again. The Wings end up with a power play. They don't score on that one. Colton then scores from Chernak at 13:43. Tampa Bay then was pushing for more, and there was a lot of chippy play. During the play, after the play, it felt to me too like even though there's a lot of penalties being called, there's stuff too that I kept thinking to myself, refs are still letting this go. How can there be so many penalties and yet I'm still seeing all these things? I'm like, that could have been a penalty. You got to keep control, right? Because when tempers are getting that high, as fun as it is to watch, that's when you get your injuries, right? So with 4:11 left, the Tampa Bay Lightning get a power play yet again. Goalie pull with 3:46 left, and Kucherov scores from Hedman and Stamkos at 16:25. Not long after that, they pull the goalie again, and 6-on-5, they score again. They tie the game. Killorn from Hedman at 17:41, and it was a turnover that led to the goal, and a very raucous crowd at Little Caesars Arena. It goes kind of quiet when that takes place. So we end up going to overtime. Is overtime on the board? No. Nope. Because I looked at that board and I went, I can't fit overtime on that board. Nope. This isn't supposed to happen in the regular season. This is supposed to happen in the playoffs. Tiny board. So in the overtime, the Bolts control it early. The Wings are definitely chasing it. And Tampa Bay has them gassed. Sergachev had a shot that was saved as the Wings are completely exhausted. They would finally clear it in order to get a line change, but not for long. Palat ends up scoring from Hedman and Point at 2:43. They come from 6-3 down to win 7-6. So again, it's early in the season, but it felt like this was important for Tampa to come back and win this. For Detroit, you get a point against Tampa, so you can look at this game and get some good things out of it, and definitely some bad as well. The shots in this one were 15-8 Tampa in the first, 16-12 Tampa in the second, 14-6 Tampa in the third. They had the only 3 shots of the overtime. 48-26 overall in favor of Tampa. The Bolts controlled this. Power plays, Tampa Bay 3 for 7 lethal. Detroit 1 for 5. The hits were 16-13 for Detroit. For all of the scrums, for all of the high sticks and the cross checks, and for everything else was going on in this game, there weren't that many hits. Vasilevsky saves 20 out of 26 at one end of the rink, and Nedeljkovic saved 41 out of 48. And yeah, I can't say much with Nedeljkovic. There was way too many shots being given to guys like Kucherov and Stamkos and Point and whatnot. But Vasi, that's not a great number for him, and I would expect that to get better over the next short while. I don't think he'll stay at that level. All right. So I'm wearing Seattle. I'm wearing my Seattle Metropolitan sweater that I got from Abbotsford. And I thought this was a good one to wear tonight because this is Seattle's first win in a very long time in a top-notch pro league. And, of course, Seattle wore this kind of sweater when they won their Stanley Cup way back. So I thought, yeah, I might as well wear that. So it's Grubauer versus Saros. Fun game out of the gate. However, Tolvanen scores from Cunnin and Granlund at 3:18. And the Predators had the momentum after that goal. Nashville felt pretty good, and I thought, is Seattle going to come back in this? What's going to happen here? So I was curious about that. Shots were 7-3 in favor of Seattle at 9 minutes, but they're down 1-0, right? It doesn't last, though. They get a power play and they score on it. So this is something I noticed in the preseason, that Seattle's power play was pretty good, and I said if they can get that going, that's something that Vegas hasn't really had their first 4, now going to the 5th season. They haven't really had a good power play. So McCann scores the power play marker from Giordano and Eberle at 15:27, and then Seattle goes back to the power play. Donato took Harper into the boards. Harper took exception to that. Again, there were some dangerous hits tonight. Tanev, though, would score the power play marker from Wenberg and Donskoy at 17:33. Brandon Tanev emerging as the early candidate to be the guy who goes to Seattle and suddenly he's a goal scorer. They're using him in all situations, and why wouldn't you? He's been excellent. Then we get 2 minutes of 4-on-4, but we go to the second period with Seattle ahead, 2-1. Good start for Seattle. Predators, though, get a power play, and they score on it. It's Yossi from Forsberg at 4:36. Saros would deny Eberle. Wenberg would score to restore the lead for Seattle at 9:54 from Barry Boulay, making his debut as a member of Seattle and playing prominent role as well. Donskoy with the other helper there, so he had 2 assists tonight. And the Kraken looked sharp, and they were ahead in shots at that point. The shots would even up during the second period. So we go into the third, which is just Nashville. The third period this is where Seattle made me legit kind of nervous in this one, where I thought, I understand playing back a bit, but maybe no. So good start, not getting shots, but good start by Seattle. Not much room for the Predators to that point early on. They're blocking them out. They're not giving them good opportunities. Grubauer was saving when pressed. Seattle, though, was really sitting back. And, really sitting back, which is something you have to watch out for. Carrier had a chance to deflect high. The Predators press at the half. A lot of icings by Seattle, and I thought too many. I think they had 4 or 5 over a few-minute period there. It was a lot. And so when you're icing the puck like that, you can't make the change. They can make the line change and the face-offs in your own zone. It's a perilous thing, that the whole we can ice it, we'll be fine. Because eventually one of those end up usually going in. Tonight's game, not so much. Grubauer denies Trennan in what was likely the save of the game. Puck control, those all Preds. Tolvanen was robbed. The Preds just swarming the net at this point, late in the game. Shots were favoring the Preds overall, which had not been the case for most of the game. Goalie pull with 2 minutes left, and that leads to Seattle getting the first empty net goal in their history. And who scores it? It's Brandon Tanev, who does a little bit of everything. He scores from McCann and Appleton at 18:39, so that's Appleton's first point with Seattle. But just to keep things interesting, with 40 seconds left, it's Granlund from Carrier and Forsberg. So Nashville did end up making it a 1-goal game. They called a timeout. They did get the goalie pulled. Were not able to tie it. So Nashville loses their home opener. Seattle has won their first game in NHL history. So there you go. Congratulations to the Kraken on their first victory, which comes after a loss that I think they would probably be pretty happy about, that they played well against a team that's supposed to finish first in the division. So Seattle has to feel pretty good coming out of that second game too. And if they can continue to play this way on this road trip, they could come home, open up the new building, and have a pretty good record. Shots in this one were 12-4 Seattle in the first, 13 apiece in the second, 13-1 Nashville in the third. The only shot in favor of Seattle was the empty net goal by Tanev. That's it. They didn't put another shot on the net. Final shots 30-26 for Nashville. Power plays Seattle 2 for 2, Nashville 1 for 2. This game, not a lot of penalties. Hits 22-16 for Seattle. Grubauer saves 27 out of 30. Saros saves 22 out of 25. So Grubauer had a decent game, a little bit of a bounce back from the last one, but now I need to change boards. One more game to go. All right, so the first thing you notice after the score is brand new magnet for the Kings. So, it's just the little things, right? It's like all the numbered magnets now for the periods. Just little changes every year, or the different Kings magnets. Oh, you want me to talk about the game? Got it. I'll do that. So early on, Vegas pressed at 3.5 minute mark. This game I was able to watch in far greater detail because all the other games were over when this one started. It's interesting scheduling, isn't it? Whereas, you know, if this game wasn't scheduled, this video would have gone up about 3 hours ago. There you go. Good play by Dadonov. Peterson makes the save. Doughty had a chance, was saved as well. Leonard holds on to it, but Vegas would press and they would score. Shea Theodore from Colasar and McNabb at 9 minutes. I didn't think it was a fantastic goal. Peterson probably should have had it. And so it's 1-0 Vegas. And it's a questionable goal, but I thought, you know, that happens for Vegas at times. Kings tried to answer. We get some scrumminess going on after that. Mikey Anderson had a shot that was saved as the Kings would press. Iafallo had a chance. Then Dadonov had one the other way right after. And then Colasar had a fight with Lemieux. Decent enough fight. And then Brown would score to tie things from Kopitar and Doughty at 13-15. What happened was that Kopitar gets all the attention from Vegas. Dustin Brown's all by himself. So I understand going to Kopitar, who was in beast mode tonight. Fantastic night for him. But, yeah, you can't leave Brown alone like that. He can still score goals. Katchev, strong on the puck. Katchev made a very good first impression. And this is the thing, with KHL guys that come over, I didn't even cover it before the season started, because with KHL guys, when they come over, a lot of them get a lot of hype, and there's never any way of knowing which ones are going to make it and which ones aren't. We've seen plenty that have, plenty that haven't, and sometimes the guys with less hype are actually the ones that make it. So Katchev was impressive, I thought, right out of the gate. Carlson had a fast break. Peterson makes the save. I thought the Carlson line was quiet tonight, though. Late Kings power play, and they score on it. It's Kopitar from Katchev and Doughty at 19-17. So Katchev gets his first point in the NHL, and it's 2-1 for the Kings after one. And I thought, well, this isn't very Vegas-like. So second period, good start for the Kings. Colasar had a good shift, but then it's Danault. Danault gets a goal from Doughty and Iafallo at 3:05. So a lot of people made a big deal out of Danault only having 5 goals last year. Yeah, that's low even by Danault's standards. He had to bounce back this year. So he gets off to a good start. We'll see whether or not he can score. I'll say 12 to 15 goals this year. I'm still, I think, being conservative on that, but I think 12 to 15. I think his defensive play they'll be happy with anyways, and his face-off acumen's excellent. So any goals he gets is a bonus. Velarde then tips one over the net. Vegas was really out of sorts. Now, I understand. Vegas is dealing with a lot of injuries, right? But to me, the alarming thing was that if there's a system there, they're not playing it well. And it didn't matter which line was on the ice. So this wasn't the third, fourth line was getting chewed up. This was every line just seemed to be a little bit out of whack, right? And not only that, but it feels like, and I've mentioned this last year too, that Vegas seemed to be getting easier to play against physically. The Vegas Golden Knights, their first year, was a team that would just beat you up and send you out of the rink with bruises head to toe. They're not really that team now. And I do think that, you know, they're having to find a different way to win. And we'll see how it works out for them. Because, again, it's really early in the season. Kempe has a shot that was saved. Stone steals one. His shot saved, but he seemed to hurt himself on the play. So I don't know if he twisted his ankle or what it was, but he had to be helped off the ice. At least he skates over to the bench and they helped him to the dressing room. He couldn't put any weight on that ankle. I think it's the right one. Again, it was hard to tell from the footage on TV. But that's alarming. If Stone's out for any period of time for Vegas, especially with the way this game goes tonight, that could be really not a good time for them because they're already short on bodies as it is. Kopitar then scores to make it 4-1 from Kempe and Iafallo at 10-13, and it was another Vegas turnover. Vegas's turnovers, uncharacteristic. Vegas is very smart with the puck. These moves tonight were uncharacteristic, and I would expect Peter DeBoer to really put them through their paces because, again, this is just not Vegas-like hockey. Kings getting rush chances. Dadonov then hit a post. Kempe fires one wide before the period's out, but it's 4-1 Kings. So we go to the third period. Brossoit starts the third. So Leonard's night is over. I think I see it as a mercy pull more than anything else. And the Kings got off to another good start. The Kings were just sharper. They were faster. Their puck battles were better. They seemed to be physically having their way with Vegas all night. And it's something. Power play for LA at 1 minute and 22 seconds. And they score 25 seconds into it. It's Doughty from Katchev and Kopitar. So Katchev with 2 assists tonight. and that was the first shot for LA. Now, Drew Doughty apparently is upset that they've been talking about Team Canada, and it doesn't look like he either isn't on the radar or they haven't mentioned it to him or anything, but he's kind of put out. So that is a goal and 3 assists tonight for Drew Doughty. So, yeah, when he's upset, that can happen. Vegas tries to answer, and they end up with their first power play. But their first power play, it just doesn't work right out of the gate. Danault had a shorthanded chance, and then there was a net drive shorthanded by Kopitar. So, again, the strength, the speed, the turnovers, everything was in favor of LA. It felt like these teams switched jerseys before the game, because usually this is the kind of game that Vegas plays. Smart puck control, physically intimidating, and just taking advantage of turnovers right, left, and center. So yeah, that power play ends. The Kings then press at the 8-minute mark. Vegas had a 3-on-1 and Edler defended it. Now, did Vegas hand it away? Sure. But Edler was smart, sound defensively, and I saw that play and I thought, okay, so maybe Edler's about to have a better season in LA than he had in Vancouver. Because in Vancouver last year, that puck would have been coughed up again and may have been fished out of the Canucks net. So I'm really hoping Edler has a good year this year with the Kings. Arvidsson fires one wide, and then it's Kopitar from Arvidsson and Brown. So Victor Arvidsson gets his first point. That's at 15:06. And again, it's a turnover by the Vegas Golden Knights that leads to that goal. So you can point to the players that are out of the lineup. My answer to that would only be these turnovers. The play tonight, a lot of this is systematic. This is the system that's either not being played right or it just didn't work tonight against the Kings. Either way, they got some work to do. And they don't play a game again until next Wednesday. So this is the first time in Vegas's history that they had allowed 6 straight goals before they finally answered. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Kopitar with 3 of those goals to get that hat trick, to go with 2 assists. He is the first player since Tom Fergus in 1986 with the Toronto Maple Leafs to score 3 goals and 2 assists in the season opener. That's from Sportsnet Stats. Stevenson would score from Dadonov at 15:43. I'm going to get used to not saying Dadonov, but I'm going to keep saying Dadonov by accident because I've said it for years. So Dadonov gets the assist on the Stevenson goal to win it off his leg. So you can't argue that was a kick. But again, that's the second goal that didn't go in with his stick. So he has 2 goals in 2 games, and neither of them touched his stick. And so that made it 6-2, and that's as close as Vegas gets. Your shots in this one, 18-13 for LA. That's not normal Vegas defense. 18 shots allowed. And then 13 allowed in the second period to go with the 8 they got. And then in the third, LA outshoots them 16-4. So final shots were 47-25 for LA. Power plays 0 for 1 for Vegas, 2 for 2 for LA. Hits 34-20 in favor of the Vegas Golden Knights. Leonard saves 27 out of 31. Brossoit in relief saves 14 out of 16. And Peterson, after a bit of a slow start, ends up saving 23 out of 25 and looked all right. So there you go. Kings, they got to feel pretty good right now. And like I said, for Vegas, now they sit until next Wednesday. There's a lot now for DeBoer to look at. And hopefully between now and next Wednesday, it turns out Stone's okay and he's good to go in their next game. So there you go. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. If you're browsing your way through, you just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.